You're all welcome to today's deep news analysis. This is not gossip. This is not noise. This is a serious national issue with global eyes on Nigeria. If you care about justice, rule of law, and Nigeria's image in the world, then stay with me till the end. Please, before we go deep, support this channel. Subscribe. Turn on your notification bell, so you don't miss important national updates like this. Now let's get straight into it. Ghana's President, John Dramani Mahama, has spoken. And when a sitting African president speaks on Nigeria's internal matter, it is not small. John Mahama has openly called for strong monitoring and close supervision of the Nnamdi Kanu appeal at the Court of Appeal. Not quietly. Not through rumors. Openly. Mahama's statement did not come as a casual comment. It was direct, measured, and deliberate. He emphasized that the appeal process involving Nnamdi Kanu must be handled with seriousness, fairness, and full respect for legal standards. According to him, the appeal court proceedings should not only follow the letter of the law but also reflect the spirit of justice that democratic systems are built on. He stressed that this is a moment where Nigeria's institutions are being observed, not just by Nigerians, but by the wider African community and the international space. His position was clear. Judicial processes must be transparent, accountable, and free from political pressure. Any action short of that could damage confidence in the justice system. More importantly, Mahama went further by addressing President Bola Tinubu directly. He called on the Nigerian president to ensure that the rule of law is respected throughout the appeal process. This was not framed as an attack or criticism. It was framed as a responsibility that comes with leadership. Mahama reminded that leaders are judged not only by decisions they make, but by how institutions under their watch function. In this case, he pointed out that ensuring fairness in Nnamdi Kanu's appeal is part of protecting Nigeria's democratic values and constitutional order. This intervention is significant because Ghana and Nigeria share long-standing diplomatic ties. Statements of this nature are rarely made without careful consideration. For a sitting president to publicly comment on a legal case in another country shows that the issue has crossed national boundaries and entered a regional and global discussion. Mahama's call also reflects growing concern among African leaders about justice, human rights, and stability within the continent. In recent years, legal cases involving political or separatist figures have attracted strong reactions globally. Governments are now more aware that how such cases are handled can affect diplomatic relations, foreign investment, and international reputation. By calling for supervision and monitoring, Mahama was not suggesting interference in Nigeria's judiciary. Instead, he was emphasizing the need for credibility. A process that is seen as fair strengthens institutions. A process that is questioned weakens them. His words suggest that Nigeria has an opportunity to demonstrate commitment to democratic principles. The appeal court proceedings, according to Mahama's position, should be open to scrutiny and guided strictly by law, not sentiment or pressure from any side. This development has added a new layer to the Nnamdi Kanu case. What was once viewed mainly as a domestic legal matter is now drawing regional attention. Analysts note that when respected leaders speak on such issues, it often signals broader concern about precedent and governance. Mahama's message aligns with calls from legal experts and rights observers who argue that justice must not only be done, but must be seen to be done. His remarks reinforce the idea that legal outcomes carry weight beyond courtrooms, especially in high-profile cases. For Nigeria, this moment carries responsibility. The country is Africa's largest democracy and often seen as a leader on the continent. Actions taken now will likely influence how Nigeria is perceived in future discussions about law, justice, and governance. Mahama's intervention has therefore shifted focus. The conversation is no longer only about the appeal itself, but about Nigeria's commitment to due process under global observation. His statement serves as a reminder that leadership involves safeguarding institutions, even in difficult and sensitive cases. As attention grows, expectations grow with it. The appeal proceedings will now unfold under heightened awareness, with many watching closely to see how the courts respond and how the government ensures respect for legal norms. This is the context in which John Mahama has spoken, and it is why his words have carried weight far beyond Ghana's borders. On the 4th of February, 2025, marks a critical legal moment in the case of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. On this day, Nnamdi Kanu personally appealed against his conviction and sentence at the Court of Appeal. This appeal is now the central focus of legal attention, both within Nigeria and beyond. It represents a formal challenge to the judgment delivered by the Federal High Court and places the entire trial process under renewed legal review. To understand the weight of this appeal, it is important to recall what led to this point. On the 20th of November, 2025, Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court in Abuja convicted Nnamdi Kanu on multiple counts. Following the conviction, the court imposed a sentence of life imprisonment, alongside other varying prison terms connected to the charges. That judgment immediately reshaped the case. From that moment, the legal battle moved from trial stage to appellate review. After sentencing, Nnamdi Kanu was transferred to a correctional center in Sokoto State, where he is currently serving his sentence under the authority of the Nigerian Correctional Service. The appeal filed today is not a symbolic action. It is a structured legal process grounded in constitutional law and criminal procedure. At the Court of Appeal, the focus shifts from emotional reactions to technical legal questions. These include how the trial was conducted, whether due process was fully followed, and whether the sentence aligns with legal standards. Appeal courts do not retry cases. Instead, they examine records, arguments, and legal interpretations from the lower court. This means the strength of the appeal rests on legal reasoning, not public opinion. Lawyers involved are expected to challenge specific points of law, evidentiary handling, and judicial discretion used during sentencing. The timing of this appeal is also important. It comes at a period when the case has already attracted international attention. With external voices calling for transparency and fairness, the Court of Appeal proceedings are now unfolding under intense public and diplomatic awareness. Legal analysts note that high-profile appeals often test the independence of institutions. In this case, the appeal court is expected to operate strictly within the law, insulated from political influence, public pressure, or external expectations. This balance is central to maintaining trust in the justice system. From a legal standpoint, life imprisonment is among the most severe penalties available under Nigerian law. Any sentence of that scale naturally invites close scrutiny at the appellate level. Appeals in such cases are standard legal practice and form part of the checks built into the judicial system. The Nigerian constitution guarantees the right to appeal. By exercising this right, Nnamdi Kanu is following a lawful path available to every convicted person. The appeal does not automatically suspend the sentence, but it opens the door for review, possible adjustment, or reversal depending on the court's findings. As proceedings begin, attention is also on how the state responds. Prosecuting authorities are expected to defend the trial court's judgment, presenting arguments that the conviction and sentence were lawful, justified, and properly grounded in evidence and statute. The Court of Appeal's role is therefore central. Its decisions and handling of this case will shape the next phase. The court may uphold the conviction, vary the sentence, or order other legal remedies as permitted by law. This stage of the case reinforces a key principle of democracy. Judgments are not final until all legal remedies are exhausted. The appeal process exists to correct errors, clarify legal interpretations, and strengthen judicial accountability. As of now, Nnamdi Kanu remains in custody in Sokoto State. His legal status remains unchanged pending the outcome of the appeal. However, the legal direction of the case has clearly entered a new phase. This appeal has also renewed national debate around law, rights, and governance. While opinions remain divided, the legal process itself continues under constitutional authority. What happens next will depend entirely on the court's assessment of the legal arguments presented. The outcome will not only affect the parties involved, but will also carry wider implications for how sensitive cases are handled within Nigeria's justice system. The appeal proceedings are now active. The focus has shifted fully to the courts, and the decisions taken at this level will be closely observed in the days ahead. This stage of the case now goes beyond the courtroom and into the broader space of governance, law, and national responsibility. With the appeal now active, Nigeria is facing a moment that tests not just legal procedures, but institutional discipline. The handling of this process will reflect how seriously the country treats constitutional order, judicial independence, and due process. At this level, the appeal is no longer about public emotion or political loyalty. It is about whether legal systems function as designed. Courts are expected to operate without fear, without pressure, and without influence from any arm of power. That expectation is now under a bright spotlight. Nigeria has always presented itself as a nation governed by law. This appeal offers a real opportunity to reinforce that claim. Every action taken, every ruling made, and every procedure followed will be examined closely by legal observers, civil society groups, and international partners. The responsibility does not rest on the courts alone. The executive arm of government also carries weight. Ensuring that the judicial process proceeds freely, without interference, is a constitutional duty. Silence, restraint, and respect for the courts are part of that responsibility. This is why calls for rule of law resonate strongly at this moment. The appeal process must show that institutions are stronger than individuals and that justice is not selective. Consistency is key. When laws are applied evenly, trust grows. When they are not, doubt spreads. Nigeria's image is also at stake. High-profile legal cases often shape how countries are perceived globally. Investors, partners, and allies pay attention to how disputes are resolved. Legal certainty and fairness influence confidence far beyond politics. Within the country, this appeal has reignited discussions about justice, unity, and national stability. Different views exist, but the legal process provides a common ground. Courts exist to resolve disputes within a framework everyone recognizes. It is also important to note that appeals are not unusual. They are a normal part of judicial systems worldwide. They exist to review decisions, correct possible errors, and strengthen legal standards. Their presence does not weaken justice, it improves it. As proceedings continue, expectations remain high that the Court of Appeal will address all issues before it carefully. Legal arguments will be weighed, records examined, and judgments assessed strictly on their merits. That discipline is essential for credibility. The correctional status of Nnamdi Kanu remains unchanged for now. He continues to serve his sentence in Sokoto state while the appeal runs its course. This reflects the principle that legal processes follow order, not haste. Public discourse around the case will likely continue. However, courts are not guided by noise. They are guided by law. That separation is what protects justice from instability. For the Nigerian state, this moment demands calm and adherence to process. Reacting defensively or emotionally serves no purpose. What matters is allowing institutions to work as intended. History shows that how nations handle sensitive cases often defines future trust in their systems. Transparency, patience, and legal clarity are the tools that prevent long-term damage. This appeal will take time. That is normal. Justice is rarely rushed when it is done properly. The pace of the process should not be mistaken for weakness, but for caution and seriousness. As attention remains fixed on the courts, the broader lesson is clear. Strong democracies are not defined by the absence of conflict, but by how they manage it. Law exists to resolve disagreement without force or disorder. Nigeria stands at such a point now. The outcome of this appeal will matter, but equally important is the path taken to reach it. Process is as important as result. In the end, this phase will be remembered for how institutions behaved under pressure. Whether they stood firm, followed the law, and upheld constitutional values. The appeal continues. The courts remain central. And the responsibility to protect justice rests with every institution involved. What unfolds from here will not just close a case. It will send a message about Nigeria's commitment to law, order, and democratic principle. As proceedings move forward, attention remains firmly on institutional conduct rather than personalities. Legal experts continue to emphasize that the credibility of the justice system depends on strict adherence to procedure at every stage of the appeal. Any deviation, delay without cause, or procedural inconsistency is likely to attract scrutiny. Observers note that the Court of Appeal now carries a dual responsibility. First, to assess the legal arguments placed before it with precision and independence. Second, to ensure that its process reflects transparency and fairness in line with constitutional standards. These factors are critical in maintaining confidence in judicial outcomes. The case has also renewed broader discussions around detention conditions, access to legal counsel, and the pace of judicial review in complex matters. While these discussions do not determine court decisions, they shape public expectations about justice administration. Government officials, on their part, are expected to maintain restraint. The separation of powers requires that judicial proceedings be allowed to progress without commentary or action that could be interpreted as pressure. Respect for this boundary is essential to preserving institutional balance. International attention has not diminished. Diplomatic circles continue to observe developments closely, particularly how Nigeria navigates legal review under heightened awareness. Such attention often extends beyond a single case and influences long-term perceptions of governance and stability. Within Nigeria, civil society groups and legal associations are calling for patience and respect for due process. They argue that outcomes reached through proper channels, even when contested, carry greater legitimacy. As the appeal advances, the focus remains on law, not sentiment. The coming steps will be shaped by legal reasoning, judicial interpretation, and constitutional limits. The direction taken will contribute to the evolving record of how sensitive legal matters are managed within the Nigerian justice system.